Hi, I'm Meliana, and welcome to Asian Agribiz Podcast, bringing you interviews and updates from the animal protein community throughout Asia, from a trusted and dedicated provider of news, information, and market intelligence. In this series, Payungsak Wiryabunditkul is speaking with Nendork Mulder about the outlook for the poultry industry in Southeast Asia in 2022. Nendork Mulder is Senior Global Specialist, Animal Protein at Rabobank.
Hello, Mr. Nader. Thank you so much for giving an interview in this podcast.
Thank you, Payungsak. Thank you also for the opportunity to talk today about the outlook for the Asian poultry industry.
Okay, so in 2021, the poultry industry in Southeast Asia has been heavily impacted by the pandemic and also other factors, including higher costs and poultry production in some countries have declined. So how do you see the poultry outlook for Southeast Asia in 2022?
Yes, thank you for that questions. And definitely we've seen a lot of impact of COVID-19, but also the high input cost on the poultry industry in Southeast Asia. And I think a lot of countries, they have seen dropping production in 2021. If you look into next year, we see a bumpy road of recovery in the outlook. Why? Well, first of all, what we see is that we see the vaccination rates in most countries in Southeast Asia rising rapidly. That will allow the governments to reopen economies like we see at the moment already. And further on, it will also help to boost the economic conditions in the region. If you look to the outlook figures of the IMF, that is optimistic for the region. Last year we had only 2.9% GDP growth for the Southeast Asian region. For next year, it's going to be 5.8%. So I think that is a sort of base from where we expect demand recovery. But having said that, the big challenge for next year will be on the input side and on the cost side. And in general, cost will stay high, especially feed cost. If you look to global crop conditions, we think it's going to be tight. Stock levels are still low on international grains and oilseed markets. So expect feed prices to stay high. And also expect other input costs to stay high. Energy cost, infrastructure, logistics is still challenging to get containers on the right place. And it will stay in 2022 as well. Labor cost, I think we will talk later on that issue as well, because I think in Thailand it has definitely impacted also production, but that's also a big topic in the region. Malaysia has also been affected by labor issues. And the cost side, steel costs are also high. So if you want to expand your production, and that has been always an important development in Southeast Asia as being one of the fastest growing poultry industries in the world, expect that cost of expansion, new capacity is going to be a bit more expensive than it has been in the years before. So, but in general, I think the most important one here is that the demand side, in our view, is going to be better in a condition where there are challenges on the supply side in terms of cost, availability. So in that context, you can expect a bumpy recovery, ups and downs in demand, but also, of course, this requires a lot of attention on managing the cost side as well.
And in 2022, which country do you think will see the fastest production growth?
If you look to the different countries, 2022, we are the most optimistic about Indonesia and Vietnam. Vietnam has had a tough time in 2021. Last half, especially southern region, Vietnam was very difficult with a long lockdown. But at the moment, things are reopening, like in many other countries, Southeast Asia, and you can see that markets are now on the road to recovery in a condition of stronger demand, limited supply. And I think that is also going to continue into 2022, and that will help countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, in our view, to move to growth figures of perhaps 3-4% for this year. Thailand has also the potential to reach these figures. There's going to be good demand for Thai products on global markets, and tourism market is reopening. But it depends a lot on if the industry can tackle the labor issue. The other countries, Philippines, Malaysia, we are also optimistic, but it's Malaysia is a more mature market. Relative good controlled market, I would say, in terms of pricing in the market. But we are thinking about 2% for Malaysia. Philippines depends a lot on the quota situation. That's still a country heavily impacted by ASF. There will be a recovery road for 2022. What we expect for pork production. A lot depends on the quotas there in the country. I think if that is going to continue or not.
Okay, now let's talk about Thailand. 2021 has been challenging for the Thai poultry industry, and you already mentioned about the labor issue. I actually, is this a labor shortages? But I wonder how do you see the poultry export outlook for Thailand in 2022?
I would say it could be potentially a very good year for exports for Thailand. If you look to the global market for poultry, it's going to be a relative tight market, especially in the countries where Thailand is a main exporter. And then we are talking about Japan, European Union, and the UK. And I expect, at least for the first half of the year, 2022, that these markets are going to be all tight. Europe is reducing production in a condition where markets will reopen. So prices, in our view, are going to be high in Europe. In UK, same problems. They have a big issue also with labor. In the UK, immigrant labor has now been temporarily solved with a temporary allowance for more labor, but there's not a plan yet for 2022. So my view is also that UK will be tight. And if you look to the Japanese conditions at the moment, that industry is at the lowest stock level in poultry since 5 years. So they have been struggling with lower supply from Thailand. So they are very dependent in raw and especially further processed chicken for importing from Thailand. And they have been moving more to China to buy, but I think they have a preference to buy from Thailand. So from that perspective, if you look to that market, and you're talking then about the three main markets for Thailand, the demand is going to be there. Maybe China, that is the newer market for Thailand, selling some dark meat there in that market, is going to be weaker. Thailand is recovering ASF, low prices there, but I think that is the other markets are absolutely compensating the conditions for on global markets. So if you look to the total export figure 2022, my view is that it has the potential to grow at least 5% to above 1 million tons. And that's an historic level, of course. If Thailand reached that million, that's a huge figure for Thailand and a great achievement how that has been developed over the years, actually. So this year has been second half tough, but for next year, the potential is there, but it depends a lot if the industry can tackle, I think, the that supply issue, that also the labor issue, I think the immigrant labor workers availability, that issue, I think that is going to be the key theme in my view for that outlook. And if Thailand finally can tap into that opportunity, that definitely going to exist in the 2022 global market.
Yes, you mentioned the labor issue. Actually, my source told me that export-oriented chicken processing plant in Thailand are facing a severe shortage of about 20,000 workers. And, so do you think this issue will, as you say, that there will be solved, or there will be an ongoing issue?
it depends, of course, and this requires a more, a sort plan, I think, to tackle this issue and to find a solution. Thailand has the same problem as many other industries worldwide, where usually the chicken plants, they work with immigrant labor. We see that in Europe, we see that in the US, we see that in Eastern Europe, we see it in parts of the Middle East, and with COVID-19, that whole organization behind getting the workers for the plant has been highly disturbed, Thailand usually, I think, works a lot with immigrant laborers from Myanmar and from Cambodia. And especially I think the ones from Cambodia hasn't really come back actually. So, and that is a bit the issue, I would say. So, and then it becomes more difficult to source. So it requires a plan, I think, and to how you can deal with it. It's similar what you see in the UK at the moment as well. I think they also have been at big problems, but they are working now on a plan to get maybe some permissions, temporary permissions there on the conditions to solve that issue. If we look how the industry is replying to this, it is. I think what they do is that they grow bigger birds in Thailand now, so they get more meat. And also what they do is that they are reducing their portfolios, so they are going to less cuts or less products, specialized products, and especially reducing these products that are very labor intensive, which usually is the strength of Thailand, I think. But this is how it's solved. But what it will mean is maybe you can come quite close to the old volumes with this approach, but you are going to lose value, and you also going to lose a little bit of the strength of the Thai poultry industry, which is especially these labor-intensive products, in my view.
Yes, for poultry exports, Thailand may be the benchmark for other countries, and you said that you are optimistic about the Thai poultry export in 2022. But other countries in the region, for example, Indonesia also has emerged as a new exporter in the region. Poultry processing company in Indonesia is, expanding their export market for their value-added chicken product. Also, Vietnam is also trying to increase their chicken export. So how do you see the prospect of this new exporter going forward?
That's a very good point. And very actual. And exactly like you mentioned, some other countries in the regions are trying to tap also into this market, and especially into the further processed poultry market, the labor-intensive further processed poultry market, where Southeast Asia and China has an advantage, I would say. So traditionally, if you look to these products, and then you're talking about these skewed product or yakitoris, that sort of products dedicated to the European and Japanese market, Singapore. These high value products usually sold for $5 per kg. So very value added, and Thailand always has been leader here. And in the competition with China in the market, but over the last couple of years, I think Thailand has increased the market share in this market, and with China falling down, there was a labor cost issue as well in China. And also local prices for chicken were very high in China because of ASF. So you've seen that Thailand has definitely increased their share in Europe and especially in Japan. But now with this situation, if you think from an importer's perspective, this raises worries, I would say. So you see that the importers in Japan and Europe are rethinking on how they are going to supply in the future, and do they need other countries to supply? And I think that is happening at the moment. So, and then China has now they have regained some market share in this condition, because Thailand cannot supply all the products that are required, at least not the very labor intensive. I think Thailand can regain that market share from China if they have if they come back soon. But talking about the other countries, these volumes are still very small. But both Indonesia and Vietnam, they have access to the Japanese market, which is a very interesting market. It's the biggest and the highest value market. If you compare these countries, I'm perhaps the most optimistic about Vietnam. I think Vietnam has a lot of benefits. They have also a good agricultural supply. I think that in the country as well, they in the production of grains and even some oil seeds is there as well as input for grains. And also, there are already big investments for export in the country. So my view, if you look into the next 5 years, Vietnam will gradually develop as an exporter, a relative sizable exporter, focusing first on Japan, but also in the longer term, they can also export into Europe because there is a trade agreement, a free trade agreement with the EU. So potentially they can export without any tariff into the EU. So that is another benefit. So, and if you think from an export, and if you think also how Thailand has developed their position is, typically, what they have been doing is valuating all these different cuts. So sell the breast meat to Europe, who usually pays the highest price for breast, sell the dark or deboned dark meat based products to Japan, and then sell also other products to other markets and domestically. And, that is the way to create the best value out of it. And potentially Vietnam can do the same, I would say. So they have still a long way to go. And Thailand has really a very high standard production system, which is very difficult to compete for newcomers. But potential is there, and definitely there are already some investments in the country that are in focusing on a similar sort of model. So if you think to competition from a Thai perspective in the future, it's Vietnam. That's the country to watch.
Yes, you said that Vietnam has the potential for more export. I wonder what are some of the challenges they have to face or develop?
You need to have the right standards. You need to build up confidence in the market. You need to build up the knowledge to develop products that the market requires. And if you look to the Thai exporters, they are very good in making tailor-made products for customers in export markets. That's the strength of Thailand, I would say. So really make the right products, the right size, the right quality, exactly what the consumer wants. And that's what customers in Thailand, in Japan and the EU like a lot. And this is also, there are other exporters like the big volume exporters like Brazil or Ukraine or the US. They sell standard products in international market. That's the main focus, I would say. They do also some specialties, but it's relatively limited, and it's for them also difficult. But really, if you want to be leading in that value-added market, you need to have that knowledge to really know what the customer wants and adapt your production and have also the right standards, the capacity, the biosecurity, everything behind that actually. And that's difficult. I think that's the challenge for Vietnam to reach that level, and that can be done, but that will take several years, definitely maybe 3, 4, 5 years or so.
Okay. We talk about the region and country specific condition. Let me ask you about, in general, amid the, high production costs and challenges, labor shortages, high feed costs and other things. I wonder, in general, how should company adapt, their business to the new challenge, in terms of business model, product offering, and technology? Isn't that it?
As a producer, you have to focus on two main things: fine-tune constantly the market, how the market develops, depending on COVID, lockdowns or not, that sort of issues. But especially focus on the input side, and with all these high costs, if it's feed, if it's energy, if it's logistics, the key way to deal with that is being efficient.
Mm.
And I think that's the key success factor for producers. So the ones that have an efficient model, that have low feed conversion rates, low or very good technical performance, they will be benefiting much more than in times of low cost side. So you will see that now in this context that there are companies that will perform relatively well because they are efficient, and others they have problems because they are not prepared to that situation. So my view is really focus on efficiency in the value chain, but also focus on the procurement side. Feed formulation, very important, and also feed additive prices are high as well at the moment. So everything is expensive. So really being good in your feed formulation, use the best ingredients, and also organize your procurement at the right side actually, and really, it makes a lot of difference under volatile conditions when you buy your feed grains or when you buy your oil seeds. So
Okay, Mr. Nanderk, thank you so much for your insightful analysis.
Thank you for listening to another Asian Agribiz podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts.